It's my privilege to introduce Ambassador Ashok Kumar Sharma, sir, a distinguished diplomat. Sir served as India's ambassador to Finland and Kazakhstan and spent 12 years in various roles across the former Soviet Union. Currently, Sir is a member of the advisory committee at MERI Center of International Studies. Sir's career reflects a steadfast commitment to advancing India's interest on the global stage, and we are honored to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Sir.
Honorable Chairman, Shri I.P. Agarwal Sahab, Honorable Vice President of Mary Group of Institutions, Professor Lalit Agarwal, my senior Ambassador S.R. Tayalji, Professor M. Badrul Alam, Professor Shrikant Kondapalli, Professor Jitendra Uttam, and dear friends on this side. A few months ago, I was invited to speak in the meeting of International Progressive Alliance, which comprises of hundreds of political parties across the globe. Many of them left, some left of the center, some centrist parties. And I had flagged an issue of growing power of ultra right or far right across the globe. And after a few months, we are witnessing the consequences. With the emergence of far right, or you may say ultra right, forces everywhere, and especially in Europe and the Americas, the international relations are increasingly becoming transactional. We have to analyze this phenomenon through a comprehensive framework generated by four interlocking facets of the global system: the neurobiological substrates of human nature, which have turned them into neo-nationalists, global anarchy to some extent, because of technology, instant connectivity, and otherwise interdependence. In a globalized world, international relations and security can no longer be thought of as a zero-sum game. Neither international relations nor international security or global security can be treated as a zero-sum game, including states alone. Global security instead has 5 dimensions that include human, environmental, national, transnational, and transcultural security. And therefore, global security and the security of any state or culture cannot be achieved without good governance at all levels that guarantees security through justice for all individuals, states, and cultures. Unfortunately, these ideas have become the biggest casualty in very recent years. As we move more towards transactional relations, which is not a zero-sum game, we must acknowledge that there should be no losers. If the system has to work, everybody has to gain. Maybe some more, some less. The outcomes of the recent European Union and the United States elections highlight the growing influence of far-right movements. Many new European Union parliamentary members lean right, and the far right has made significant gains in the latest US elections. Major countries like France and Germany are also affected by the far right movements, which advocate nationalism, populism, xenophobia, racism, and anti-immigration sentiments. Italy, Sweden, and the Netherlands are also experiencing the impact of this political shift, Many Latin American nations are also voting the rightist parties to power. Asian countries are also not far behind. Most importantly, these movements are posing a threat to the stability of the present world order, as we have witnessed in the last 1 month. The Trump phenomenon cannot be seen in isolation. This raises important questions for Africa and parts of Asia. The continents that have historically relied on the support of Europe and the US. The rise of far-right movements in Europe and the US, driven by historical ties, socio-economic factors, political dynamics, and transnational influences, has significant implications for Africa, Asia, and global geopolitics at large. A contributing factor to the rise of far-right movements is the perception of Africans, Afro-Americans in South America, and Asians as sources of problem and threats. The colonial history of European powers in Africa and Asia has left a legacy of ethnic divisions, nationalist sentiments, and anti-Western resentment. These factors have fueled conflicts, instability, and migration from Africa and Asia, which in turn have triggered adverse reactions in Europe and the US. Far-right movements exploit these fears and prejudices to promote isolationism, protectionism, and nativism. They portray Africa and Asia as a burden and a danger to Western civilization, advocating for strict border controls, reduced aid, and less engagement with these continents and their diaspora. This rhetoric undermines efforts to build cooperation and solidarity between the global south and the Western world, threatening the prospects for peace and development in these regions. The far-right movements in Europe and the US oppose multilateralism, human rights, and democracy promotion. They favor unilateralism, sovereignty, and national identity. Surprisingly, they also question the benefits of globalization and free trade, which were earlier promoted by those countries only, and support protectionism and economic nationalism. These views have implications for the future of political and economic cooperation between the global south and the west, and also they will affect global order and governance. More broadly, the chauvinist nationalism advocated by many of the far-right parties promotes the national policies of self-sufficiency and localized economies to reduce vulnerability. These views can lead to protectionist economic policies such as tariffs or non-tariff trade barriers, such as industrial policy favoring domestic supply chains and increased business tax rates. Anti-immigrant platforms can be operationalized through new security measures, discriminatory labor practices, limitations on international workers, impacting labor costs or availability of services. In this background, the topic of today's seminar is very timely and relevant. We have seen what has happened in the last 3 weeks. However, India has been working on a Look East policy in recent years. Even during its G20 presidency, India had promoted the cause of Global South, indicating a shift towards more mutual cooperation and synergy among the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Earlier, at the beginning of this millennium, the current century was termed as Asia's century. The time has come to revive and promote that concept. The developed economies of Asia, of East Asia in particular, and Southeast Asia, along with the countries from South Asia like India, have a special responsibility and role in this developing scenario. With their manpower, manufacturing base, skills, and of course, big domestic markets, these countries can provide a good alternative and competition to the so-called developed West and reduce the dependence of the global South on the traditional Western economies. I leave the more specific discussion on to the domain experts. Thank you.